Hi there, my name's Josh and I'm a passionate clarinetist. Back in 2018, I completed the AMusA exam on my clarinet, but wasn't able to get my diploma yet because I hadn't yet completed the AMEB Grade 5 Theory of Music exam, which was a requirement. I ended up only doing that exam last year in 2021, and so I procrastinated it for a couple of years. My very first piece of advice is to not procrastinate it. It's a lot easier than it sounds. I think that what I did was I never had a teacher for it, and I never really got around to doing it amongst the busyness of school and life and whatnot. So just get around to doing it. That's why I made this video, to try and help others who might be or might have been in a similar position to me, because I never had a theory of music teacher and I found it difficult to get going. Having said that, a couple of people really helped me when I was studying for this exam in the middle of last year of 2021, and I'd like to thank them, especially to thank Yuki, who helped me a lot and to answered my questions quite thoroughly when I was having trouble. So I got a pass with honours. I think I scored in the high 80s, and the only section I think where I lost a substantial amount of marks was harmonisation. I'm not saying you shouldn't try on harmonisation, but it is, I think, the most difficult section. There is no right or wrong answer. You do get a set of rules that you should follow. Even with that set of rules, you have to make a series of choices, which I think elevate the difficulty of that section. So all the other sections I think you should be getting, or most students should be getting close to full marks on. So that's keys and scales, intervals and modulation, which is this video here. Also general knowledge and set works. The set works you should purchase the official documentation on, because that provides a trove of information that will be useful to you in your responses. And melody writing, which I also got full marks on, even though there is no right or wrong answer. Melody writing is just kind of following, it's kind of just making choices, making musical choices that aren't bad, and you'll be fine, because it's just a tune that has to sound okay, I guess. So this video, as I said, the first 3 sections, and I'll be going through the later sections in a later video.
The first part of my series will be what I think is the easiest section of the exam, the first 22 marks. So this section looks at keys and scales, intervals, and modulation. And the reason why it's the easiest, I reckon, is because it requires no creativity at all. All marks are just you get the mark or you don't. And all you really have to do is to memorize a table of keys. In grade 5 theory, you need to know all the keys whose key signatures go up to 7 sharps or 7 flats. You should also understand how major, minor, and melodic minor keys work. So you have your major key, such as D major. It has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. Its relative minor key begins on a note that is 3 semitones below what the major key begins on. So B minor begins on a D. Also, for B harmonic minor, its 7th note is raised. So this isn't written on the key signature, but the 7th note, which is A, is now raised to an A sharp in the harmonic minor scale. Also, you should know that melodic minor scales have both their 6th and 7th notes raised when you're ascending, and on your descending octave, it follows the natural minor scale. What that means is that it just follows the key signatures. No notes are raised. So the 6th and 7th notes, which were raised in the ascending octave, they are lowered again. So just memorize this table and also understand how key signatures look. So they are mostly regular. What I mean is B flat, E flat, and then each of those just go down 1 unit. In terms of the sharps, you should know that A sharp doesn't go on the ledger line up here. A sharp just goes back on the staff. Same in the bass clef. And once you have this learnt, you should be good to go to do all these keys and scales questions. So first of all, we'll start with name the major key that uses this key signature. So this key signature has 7 flats. So we look at the flat section of our table. So it's C flat major because they're asking for the major key. So next up, we have a question, write the key signature for C sharp major. That's C sharp major just has 7 sharps. It will actually look identical to this, so have that memorized. All you have to do is to fill it in. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp. Remembering that A sharp doesn't go up here, goes down here. E sharp and B sharp. Name this scale. So how we name scales, first of all, just look at the first note, the highest or the lowest note. It's G sharp. So there are 3 options really: G sharp major, G sharp harmonic minor, G sharp melodic minor. We can eliminate G sharp major because looking at here, G sharp major has F double sharp as part of its key signature. This doesn't have F double sharp, this is just F sharp, so it's not G major. It's either G minor or G harmonic minor or G melodic minor. Another thing that you can memorize is the gaps between successive notes in major scales, harmonic minor scales, and melodic minor scales. Major scales is that, harmonic minor scales, noting that this is a tone and a half. And for melodic minor scales, going up, tone, semitone, 4 tones and a semitone, going down, 2 tones, semitone, 2 tones, semitone, tone. What this tells us is that if we just look here, the gap between the top note, the 8th note, and the 7th note from G sharp to F sharp, that's a tone. Looking at our harmonic minor scale, the gap between, the interval between the 7th and 8th notes is a semitone, so it's not harmonic minor. Looking at ascending melodic minor, well, this is not ascending, so it can't be that. So it has to be the descending melodic minor scale. So all we have to do is write G sharp melodic minor. You can also just check G sharp to F sharp is a tone, F sharp to E is a tone, E to D sharp is a semitone, D sharp to C sharp is a tone, C sharp to B is a tone, B to A sharp is a semitone, and A sharp to G sharp is a tone. So that fits this pattern we have here. Write the scale of D sharp melodic minor. Okay, so all we have to do, they've given us a key signature. Firstly, just start on D, fill up the notes up to an octave. Oops. That's 1 octave up and octave down. Should have 15 notes in all, just count that to be sure. Have I missed something here? D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Oh, I didn't go up to D. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have 15 notes from ascending octave and descending octave. Then just remember for a melodic minor, on the ascending octave, the 6th and 7th notes are raised. So B was originally B, B becomes B sharp. And C was originally a C sharp, so a C sharp raised becomes a C double sharp. On the octave down, you'll note that they automatically don't apply the accidental that we've just applied. So the octave down just follows the key signature, which is what we have here. So that is D sharp melodic minor. Write the scale of B flat melodic minor. So this is the same thing basically. Start on B, go up. That's 1 octave up, go an octave down. Sixth note is G flat, that raised becomes G natural. Seventh note is A flat, that raised becomes A natural. And on the way down, it's just the natural minor scale with no accidentals, additional accidentals to the key signature. Okay, so for this, you can really just observe, first of all, that it is symmetrical. It's not a melodic minor scale, obviously, then. And it's also, so it has to be B flat major or B flat minor. It's not B flat major. Reason being, B flat major, you'll see here, has two flats. This has more than two flats. So it's B flat minor. What you can do is that you can just work out the gap between every two notes, or you could just follow the pattern for harmonic minor scales, which is given here. I'll just do the first method first. B flat to A, you can just visualize a piano kind of, if you played a piano. B flat to A to G flat, that's a tone and a half. G flat to F, that's a semitone. F to E flat, that's a tone. E flat to B flat, D flat, that's a tone. D flat to C, that's a semitone. C to B flat, that's a tone. Or, as I said before, you can just look at the pattern for harmonic minors and just fill it in. It's symmetrical anyway to our descending octave. Tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone and a half, and semitone. So that's that. Okay, we're up to intervals now. The next section after keys and scales is intervals. Now, intervals are all about the gaps between the tonic of a scale, so the first note of a scale, and any other note of the scale. In this table here, how to read this table, well, firstly an octave is 12 semitones, that's what these numbers represent. A major scale will follow the pattern of perfect first, unison, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and perfect eighth. You see at the key down here, capital P represents perfect, capital M represents major, lowercase m represents minor, which is always one chromatic semitone smaller than the major. Augmented is represented by A. It's one chromatic semitone larger than a major or perfect. Diminished is represented by D, and that's one chromatic semitone smaller than a minor or a perfect interval. Now, if we look at a major key here, as I said, it follows this pattern. A minor harmonic minor key follows this pattern. Note that the only differences to the major key are that the third note in the scale is one semitone below the third notes of the major scale, beginning on the same note, and same with the sixth. So the third and the sixth are the differences between a minor and its not relative, but the major key beginning on the same note. And then we also have, I've just filled in these intervals as well, which might come in useful. But at the end of the day, you don't have to memorize the whole table, because I'll go through the best way to do these is actually just to kind of intuitively get them. Note that when we augment something, when we augment a sharp, for example, it goes to a double sharp. When we diminish a flat, it goes to a double flat. When we diminish a sharp, it goes to just nothing, like a natural. When we augment a flat, that just goes to a natural as well. What that kind of means is that a double sharp, such as this can't be diminished, because if it were diminished, then the original notes would have been a triple sharp, which we don't see. Same with double flats. Double flats can't be augmented. But let's go to this. Let's do this. Name this interval by number and quality. We always look at the bottom note, A sharp. So we either consider A sharp major or A sharp minor. I like considering A sharp major first of all. A sharp major is not one of the keys up here. The reason being it has double sharps. But you can just kind of visualize it all the same. What I mean by that is that you know that the second note in A sharp major must be a B sharp. Reason being, A sharp to B sharp is one tone. The gap between the first and second notes is one tone. It's B sharp. It's not C because from C sharp major onwards, so if you keep going down on this table, from C sharp major onwards, you have a B sharp in the key signature. So it won't be C natural, it'll be B sharp. So A sharp to B sharp is the interval between the first and the second notes in A sharp major. If we look at a major third from A sharp major, that's C double sharp. Actually, that's C double sharp because before we had B sharp, a tone up from B sharp is C double sharp. It's not D natural because from E major onwards, downwards, the D has been sharpened, which means that because major scales, remember, don't have extra accidentals, which means that a D on the scale with the key signature won't be a D. What that means is this is a C double sharp. So A sharp to C double sharp is a major third. It's not a diminished fourth because C double sharp is part of the key signature of A sharp major, as well as the fact that I said before that double sharps can't be diminished. So this is a major third. One way you can check this is using online interval calculators. They're quite useful, I think. So you can probably check one of those. I'll have one in the description. Name this interval by number and quality. So again, we look at the bottom note. The bottom note here is B flat. Then we look at B flat. I like looking at B flat major. B flat major is pretty easy. We would have known it from year levels ago. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G. So G is the sixth note of B flat major, which means B flat to G is a major sixth here. Now, this is, remember, an augmented interval is one semitone larger than a major. So one semitone larger than a major sixth is an augmented sixth. This is a G sharp, so this is an augmented sixth. Write this interval below the given note. Okay, so we're going to look at inversions of intervals now. What this means is that if I write a note, say the answer is this, it's not. If I write it below, then the interval from B to C sharp must be a diminished fifth. You never read intervals from the top down, so it's not C sharp to B, it's always from the bottom note. So B to C sharp must be a diminished fifth. That's not the answer because that was random, but that's what it means. Now, in terms of how to do this, the first thing you always do is to invert this interval. By inverting it, you just have to follow a rule here. Augmented intervals become diminished, and so diminished becomes augmented. Major intervals become minor, minor becomes major. And also in terms of the number, 1 becomes 8, 2 becomes 7, 3 becomes 6, 4 becomes 5, and vice versa. So you subtract it from 9. What this means is that this interval, the inversion of this interval, is an augmented fourth. And then all we have to do is to work out the augmented fourth above C sharp, above the note C sharp, but then write it below the note. Augmented fourth above C sharp, well, we just have to consider C sharp major C sharp major, you could use tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. I'm just going to do that. C sharp to D sharp is a tone. D sharp to E sharp, no, it's E sharp because the key signature of C sharp major has E sharp in it. D sharp to E sharp is a tone. As I said, E sharp to F sharp is a semitone. F sharp to G sharp is a tone. So G sharp is the fourth note of C sharp major scale. It is a perfect fourth because it's the fourth note above C sharp. Now, remember, we're trying to work out the augmented fourth above C sharp. So a G sharp, an augmented is one chromatic semitone larger than a major. So a G sharp becomes a G double sharp. So an augmented fourth above C sharp is G double sharp. But because we have to write it below it, that goes here. So that is a diminished fifth. And you can check that as well using an interval calculator if you want. Okay, write this interval below the given note. This is exactly the same thing. Firstly, we work out the inversion of this interval. Minor second, a minor becomes a major. A second becomes a seventh because we subtract it from 9. So that's a major seventh. So work out a major seventh above G sharp. G sharp major is this. It has a double sharp in it, so just be careful with that. A major seventh above G sharp. One thing you could actually do as a shortcut is that you know that a major seventh is one semitone up below a perfect octave. A perfect octave above G sharp is obviously just G sharp itself. A major seventh, you have to be careful here, remembering that F double sharp is part of the key signature. A major seventh is one semitone below a G sharp. In this case, it's F double sharp, not G, because the G is sharpened from A major onwards. It's an F double sharp. So a major seventh above this is F double sharp, but you have to write it below it, so you just do that. So this is a minor second. Name the inversion of this interval. So what we do for these questions is that we can invert it first and then work it out, or we can work it out and then invert it. Because the bottom note is a double flat, I like to invert it firstly. So what I mean by that is pretend that, like, invert it first. So this E double flat, move it up to this in your imagination. And what we have to do is work out the interval between B flat and E double flat. How do we do that? Well, again, we look at B flat major, which is the tonic now. B flat major, B flat to C is a tone. B flat to C to D is another tone. B flat to C to D to E flat. That is the perfect fourth above B flat major. But wait, this is E double flat. Remember that diminished, the definition of diminished is one chromatic semitone smaller than a minor or perfect. In this case, E double flat is one semitone smaller than E flat, which means that this is not a perfect fourth. This is a diminished fourth. So the inversion of this interval is a diminished fourth. This is the same question, but this is an example of, I guess, where you can, there are a couple of ways to do this. You could, if you really want to kind of cheat and not work out what F flat major is, you can pretend that F flat is E. I'm just going to cheat for this question. F flat is E. E. We know E major. E major is very easy. E major, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. That is a perfect fourth because the fourth note of a major scale is a perfect. Now B double flat is the same note, same pitch as A, which means that this is either a perfect fourth or an augmented third because it's 5 semitones between this E and A. I said earlier that because the top note is a double flat, it can't be augmented because we don't have triple flats. So what that means is that this is a perfect fourth. which is pretty cool because we didn't have to work out what F flat major is. We just worked out used E major. So that's not the answer though. Perfect fourth, we have to remember, name the inversion of this interval. Since this interval is a perfect fourth, the inversion of it is perfect fifth, because perfect remains perfect, but fourth becomes fifth because we subtract it from 9. Okay, this question, I don't even know why they do that, like ask this question, because all you have to do is to write the bottom note above an octave. So that's a C double sharp. That's all they're asking you to do for this question, and it's 2 marks for some reason. Okay, so the next section we have is modulation, 5 marks. I find modulation very fun because there's just a rule that you have to follow, but at the same time you kind of have to guess stuff as well. Not as in like totally guess, but you have to make informed decisions. The first part of the question is to name. You're given a passage basically, and you have to work out the modulations. First part of the question is name the tonic key. You're also given this piece of information. It modulates from the tonic key twice. The tonic key of a piece is always going to be either the key signature, the major or minor key that uses the key signature. So the key signature here is B flat, E flat. If we go up back to here, we know that this is either B flat major or G minor. So which one is it? There are a couple of clues we can use. The first thing is that it begins on a B flat. That's not conclusive because it can still begin on a B flat if it's G minor, but it kind of revolves around B flat, so that kind of gives you a clue. Also, it ends on an F, which is the dominant of B flat, but that's not really conclusive. I think the best bet that you have is that you've been told that there are 2 modulations from the tonic key. Clearly 2 areas of accidentals here are the 2 areas of modulation. Now, the first area of modulation contains F sharp, so that's obviously F sharp is the accidental that is present within G minor because that's the 7th note of G minor. So you know that it modulates to the relative minor key in its first modulation. But you can use all those pieces of evidence combined in order to help you conclude that this is in B flat major. I will also fill in this table first because in grade 5 theory, the only modulations which can occur are the following. So the tonic key is B flat major. It can modulate to its relative minor key, which is G minor, 3 semitones below B flat. It can modulate to its subdominant. Remember, that's the 4th note of the scale. 4th note of B flat major is E flat, so it can modulate to E flat major. If it modulates to E flat major, then the 7th degree will be lowered. These are just some observations that you can make. It can modulate to the relative minor of E flat major, which is C minor. The dominant of B flat major is F major, and it can also modulate to the relative minor of F major, which is D minor. So what these tell you are patterns in the accidental changes. So for example, if I modulate from G minor to D minor, so I modulate from a minor key to its dominant, the minor key modulating to the dominant, its 6th degree will be raised. You can use these to help you. But let's just go back to the question and continue it. Name the key of the first modulation. F sharp is the note that is the first modulation. I mentioned before that this is G minor. Reason being, you know that F sharp is the 7th. F is the 7th note of G, because a minor key has to be raised to because the minor key has its 7th note raised, F is raised to an F sharp. So this is a G minor. This is G minor. That's very easy to tell. It's obviously not a major key because major keys, E flat major and F major, both only have flats. So it has to be a minor key. And for a minor key, only its 7th note is raised, which means that you can just look at F and know that because F is the 7th note of G, it must be G minor. And modulating to the relative minor is very common. Name the relative relationship of the key of so the key of the first modulation is the relative minor key of B flat major. Name the key of the second modulation. So the second area of modulation is an E natural around here. Now, just looking at this here, we see that for major keys modulating to the dominant, the 4th degree is raised. Now, B flat major was the tonic key. The 4th degree is B major is E flat. That has been raised because E flat to an E natural is a raise, which means that this is modulating to the dominant, which is F major. And name a relationship, you can just say the dominant key. That's all you have to say. And that is the end of modulation.